these aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Good morning, and wakey wakey. If you're not awake already, hopefully my attire will help wake you up on this Friday morning. Excuse me while I just sort that out. Right, it's 5 Fact Friday. This is Moving Home with Charlie. I am Charlie, and this is the weekly video where I share with you 5 of the newly reported facts that I think have the most significant impact on the housing market. Perhaps not immediately, sometimes short term, sometimes long term, but one way or another, these are the things I would most want to know about if I was thinking of moving home. And actually, this first one on the screen here is not one of the 5 facts. It was just one of the stories that came out this week, yesterday on the Daily Mail. And it's a bit of a clickbaity one, and it does kind of go, if you measure it this way, house prices have plunged 60% in one place in London. And that's all good for headlines. And no one should read anything into this. I don't think it suggests that the entire market is about to crash like central London has. But the point is, compare it with a few years ago, and people wouldn't have seen this coming. People didn't see this coming. People didn't believe it was possible because supply and demand. People, they talk as though every single individual person arriving in this country has to have a whole house to themselves, which isn't the case. It's all about availability of finance and multiples of mortgages and length of duration. That's what feeds in house prices. And what's interesting to me in the market overall is that there's actually been quite a lot of stimulus with loosening lending criteria, increasing government-backed mortgage schemes, 95% mortgage schemes, all of this stuff. And there's been a £700,000 increase in population. And yet house prices still haven't actually gone up despite all that stimulation. They're still struggling. Let me quickly run through the 5 headlines for those of you who don't have time to listen to me ramble on all day. So fact number 1, one of the UK's biggest estate agents put out a press release this week where they talk about how affordability ever more stretched for home buyers. And that is scaremongering FOMO to try and create fear amongst buyers. Oh, we got to buy if affordability is getting worse. Actually, affordability is getting better. And the way they've measured it is crap. And I want to show you that because it's actually a guy I know and I like, and he runs a very big agency, but I'm going to call him out on this particular piece of guff. Fact number 2, official data shows that corporate agents are least likely to sell your home and owner-managed independents are most likely to sell your home. This confirms what I've always known. Actually, I've always known it anyway, but it's really interesting to see it's broken down. We'll run through the percentages of the 4 different estate agency types and their overall results nationally. It's interesting and very worthwhile to know. Number 3, probably the biggest headline of the week. Zoopla joins Rightmove and Savills in slashing their 2025 house price growth forecast to just 1%. And we'll go through Zoopla's house price index. I've got it up. We'll go through the details of that in a bit, see what we can pick out of that. Matthew Pennycook was in a House of Commons committee answering questions about leasehold ending and claims on camera, and we'll have a look at it. And I want you guys to look at his body language and tell me what you think when he says, oh, yes, we're definitely going to end the feudal leasehold system within this parliament. And I think he looks really shifty and you can just tell he's saying it because he has to say it and he's supposed to believe it. But you can just tell deep down inside, he's like, there's no chance. That's my interpretation. Let me know what you think. And then fact number 5, which surprisingly got almost 0 coverage this week. In fact, I would say it got 0 coverage. New build housing starts for Q2. Where it was reported, it was like, they're up, they're rising. New build starts are rising in Q2 compared to Q2 last year. And so, without looking any further, you think, wow, that's good news, isn't it? It's fantastic. It's up 4%. Last year was a record low. And it's still, even at this rate, going to be less than half of the government's house building target. And again, we'll dig in to see what that actually means for the market. But who do we have watching live this morning? Carlos, hi there. Thank you very much. Yes, it is. It's lovely, isn't it? Roams and Renovates. Good morning. Master of Whisperers, Jack May, Super Ted 73, Alex Jenkinson, T Chaucer. I will have a look at questions if I've got some time for questions, but let's get into fact number one. So this is not, luckily this did not get much public coverage. It's got on the estate agency industry. And this is where I think stories like this do even more harm when only agents see them. So this chap is Adam Day. He's actually someone I really like, and he's a very impressive agent, and he's running EXP, which is a large network of self-employed agents. It's kind of a multi-level marketing. It's a pyramid selling estate agency, but it's legal, and actually it does get pretty good results for clients. So it's of all of the self-employed franchise brands, it's one of the better ones. But look at this. He goes, they've analyzed government data on the annual increases in house prices and earnings. And what they've done is they've taken the ONS's current average house price, saying that it's increased by £10,000 over the last year. But the salary in Britain has risen by just £2,000 over the last year. So in pound amounts, they're saying that house prices are rising 5 times faster. Here we go, look. This means the average home values in the country has increased 5 times the rate of average earnings over the past year. And that is proper. I mean, it's either knowing willful misinterpretation of the data, or they just don't understand how affordability metrics work. Because despite the still too high level of house prices, affordability has improved in the last year or so. It's come down from 8.7 times median salary to 7.8 times. Just come down about 1 time salary is reduced in the last year. So this is either an ignorant or a willful misrepresentation. But the problem is, on the estate agent's website, there's the estate agency industry news websites. So thousands of agents will read that and go, oh, did you know affordability is going really badly backwards, and if you don't hurry up, it's going to get even worse. And of course, a lot of uninitiated first-time buyers who aren't that good with maths are going to go, oh, and they'll have proper FOMO, and they'll go, where do I sign? So this is, I haven't yet. I need to WhatsApp them and say, oi, what was this story about? Because it's not okay on any level. Anyway, that's that. That's fact number one. Fact number two, really important, and this is from Christopher Watkin. This is on LinkedIn, and links to all of these stories are in the description below. There's a link to a blog post on my website with links to all of these stories. Now, Chris Watkin is a long-standing colleague and associate of mine in this moving industry. He and I share the same end goal, but have different opinions on how to get there. And we both share the goal of increasing transactions for the benefit of everyone, movers especially. But he's analyzed data from 20EA, which is a well-respected industry data analyst, which, by the way, 20EA has house price data that it could publish to reveal proper transparency of exchange prices, but it doesn't and it can't because its clients are big estate agents and they won't let it. It's another problem behind the lack of house price transparency that actually, I think, holds back transaction volumes. And those estate agents would be much better minded to go, hang on a second, if we allowed house price transparency and we stopped overvaluing, we'd sell more houses. But even though the maths is there and it's incontrovertible, it's a bit like people who think house prices will only ever go up forever, even when they don't. You can't change their mind even with the data. But let's look at this because this is good, right? So the 4 different kinds analyzed were corporate, so big chains like Foxtons, Connells, that kind of stuff. Franchise, people like Winkworths, Belvoir, I think. There are quite a lot of franchise ones where you get individual business owners who have a franchise for 1 branch or maybe 2 branches, but they're part of a bigger network, but they are effectively self-employed business owners. Regional independents, so that's where you've got Mrs. Miggins and Co., estate agent since 1983, and Mrs. Miggins is sitting in the office there, and they are a local owner-managed independent. And then the self-employed ones, who are the individuals, kind of work from home. They don't tend to have offices. They work for big brands like EXP, the one from the first fact. And he's on a generalization of all of those different agency types. And the saleability rate is the percentage of homes that they end up exchanging on. I don't understand why more sellers don't know about this data and don't. I mean, I've been talking about it for a long time, but most people still end up instructing the worst performing agents. Riddle me that. Like, I just don't understand it. What do you expect is going to happen when you don't do enough research to find that out? But here are the numbers, right? The top 50 UK estate agent saleability rate. Corporates only exchange, and this is all corporates, right? In the top 50, 53%, right? So only just over half. Franchises, just under 60%. Self-employed, 65%. And regional independents, 72%. Let me explain to you in really simple terms the reason why regional independents sell almost 50% more, certainly 40% more of the stuff they list than the corporates do. The branch manager of a corporate estate agent makes a very small percentage of the fee of selling your house as his commission. Whereas the owner of a regional independent estate agent gets to keep 100% of the commission, the fee for selling your house. He's then got to pay his staff from that and everything else. But put simply, the regional independents, the people managing those offices, are roughly 10 times more motivated and incentivized to sell your home than the corporate guys. Now, there are exceptions, and there are some outstandingly good corporate branch managers. And it only matters to you locally which ones are the best individuals, right? The self-employed guys, they are highly motivated and highly incentivized, but they tend to be under-resourced. They don't have as much support and backup. They're kind of doing everything themselves. Now, some of them do it very well, and they are outstanding, right? But they work themselves to the bone. And if they go on holiday, that kind of stuff, I mean, they basically can't have a holiday, those guys. They're working from home. They're working all hours of the day and night. They don't have enough time for their families. They're paying sometimes 30, sometimes more, 30% of their fee to the brand that they operate under. It's really, really hard grind for self-employed, but they do get freedom and flexibility. And the ones who do it very well have a pretty good life out of it. You know, and they will tend to go the extra mile, but they won't have the same resources as regional independents who've got an office with a few staff in it. You know, where there's basically a better setup, where you've got someone focusing on sales progression, someone focusing on the viewings, someone focusing on the valuations, or you know, the marketing appraisal appointments, and that a small team. And by the way, some of the self-employed guys, some of the best self-employed guys, do have a couple of extra people in their team, and that starts to make a really big difference. But if all else was equal and you didn't know how to pick, right, this is a pretty good example, a pretty good indication of the way in which you go about choosing your agent. Number one, you want to look for a good local independent with the name above the door. They've been there a long time. They've got the most to lose, and the most to lose if they fail you, and the most to gain if they succeed in selling your house. That's not to say that there aren't some shockingly bad ones. There really are, but you can tell the difference. I would be going and walking in and out of all the offices, right? Get a feel for the office. How professional is it? How well run is it? How well are you greeted when you walk in the office? That kind of stuff. Then I would be looking at local self-employed ones. Then I'd be looking at franchises, but corporates would be the last ones. The Connells and the Countrywides and those guys would be at the bottom of the list, if all else was equal. There are exceptions to that. The exceptions being if the manager of your local corporate branch is well known, been there for years, and delivers outstanding results. That's why, unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all recommendation here. But these are really important numbers, okay? And if you really can't see any other differentiation, you massively improve your chances if you go with a regional independent, as long as they don't overvalue your house too much and you don't pick a bad one. But no matter who you choose as a seller, and this is relevant to the next point we're coming on to, no matter who you choose as a seller, remember that your future depends on your choice of estate agent. Okay. And so you must not, this is the number one golden rule, whoever you choose, do not sign a long sole agency contract. Do not sign anyone's terms and conditions without reading all the small print. And if an agent puts a huge 2-page contract with tiny print in front of you and says, sign it now, I say, well, no, I need to read it first. So leave it here and have a look at it and I'll come back to you tomorrow. Never, ever, ever succumb to the pressure of the guy or the girl sitting in your living room saying, sign here, and thinking, oh, it would be awkward if I didn't sign it. I'll just sign it. Just push back and think, this is my future at stake. I will not be rushed into signing a contract I haven't read. What's too long in terms of sole agency exclusivity? In my mind, 8 weeks is plenty long enough. If they haven't impressed you with a number of offers by 8 weeks, you need to be leaving. You need to be going for another agent. So if they're asking you for more than 8 weeks, 12, some are asking for 16, some 20, some are even 26 weeks. I cannot believe any sellers are signing 26-week contracts. If they ask you for more than 8 weeks, you should express concern and go, why do you need more than 8 weeks? That's the question. Why do you need more than 8 weeks? And you shouldn't sign up, right? And if you like the agent otherwise and think this is a good agent, say, I want to go with you, but I'm not agreeing to 26 weeks. Oh, but it's corporate policy. Well, I don't care. If you're going to stick to a corporate policy, then it means we can't sell with you. But if you want to sell a house, make it 8 weeks and we'll sign. You can negotiate. Do not be taken in by these hardcore salespeople who go, oh, I'm really sorry. That's it. That's the price. That's the fee. That's the terms. Well, if you can't negotiate, then no, go away. I'm going to choose an agent who will negotiate. So that's fact number 2. Fact number 3. What are we? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So this is probably the most important fact of the week. Where is it? Oh, come on. Hang on a second, guys. They put it on their webpage, but they didn't put it in their full report. So this is Zoopla. I just want to say something before I put this on the screen. So the headline of this video is that Rightmove was forecasting 2%, same as Zoopla, 2% increase in house prices in 2025. They cut it from 2 to 1%. Savills was forecasting 4%, and has slashed it from 4% to 1%. And now Zoopla has gone from 2% to 1%. All of them, sorry, one sec, close the window, too noisy. They've all cut their forecasts to 1% nominal house price growth in 2025. Now, you only would do that if not changing your forecast would end up being more embarrassing than changing it, because it's embarrassing for these guys to have to change their forecasts. It happens from time to time, but it is embarrassing. They don't want to do it. And now you've got Zoopla, Rightmove, and Savills all slashing their forecasts to 1%. What does that tell you? All of them have gone, we've got to swallow this bitter pill of embarrassment and revise our forecast. I mean, especially for Savills. What does it tell you about the market? First of all, what it tells you is there's no point in having much faith in their forecasts, right? Even in their 1-year forecast, let alone the bollocks that Savills came out with a 4-year forecast that prices are going to be soaring in 4 years' time. It's just desperate PR, and it's actually undermining their credibility. But what it tells you is all of these guys are going, and don't forget, they're always trying to be optimistic. They're always trying to say how well they think it's going to do. So when they've all put it down to 1%, you can pretty safely bet it's going to end up being less than 1% or even negative. So I'm going to just quickly, here's the fact before we get into Zoopla's. Sorry, here we are. So these are the headlines, okay? The buyer demand Agreed sales and the number of houses for sale are all at unexpectedly high levels across the UK. Well, buyer demand increasing unexpectedly is good. Um, I'm not sure it's that unexpected, but it's good. I think that's a factor of improving affordability and all these extra mortgage products. Agreed sales being unexpectedly high. Well, I'm surprised they're unexpected. I mean, they're not that high. They're only a little bit up. And the number of houses for sale, that's not unexpected. They've been high for a long time. So I question the use of the word unexpectedly there. The boost in activity, it's a modest increase in activity. That's great news. That's a sign that there is health in the function of the housing market. But house prices remain stubbornly low because we all want them to go up, right? Rising only 1.3% over the last year, which, by the way, guys, compare and contrast that with the ONS's absolute nonsense figures. And we've changed our forecast from 2025 from 2% to 1%. It's a really weird, looking at the housing market overall at the moment is really weird because activity levels are holding up and slightly improving. Now, some people might go, well, that's a sign of a really healthy, booming housing market. No, it isn't, because activity levels should be double, right? The demand, the number of people who would like to move house and would move house if they could, is way higher than the number of people who are actually moving house. So although there's an increase in activity, it's still massively suppressed, and far, far more people would be moving home if it was more affordable and easier to do so. But despite this increase in buyer demand and activity, they've all reduced their house price forecasts. That's unusual, isn't it? You'd think if they're saying increase this and increase that, then they're going to increase house prices and increase confidence and all that kind of stuff. But they're all reducing. To me, this is a very large alarm bell sounding very softly. That's the way I see it, right? And I think that transaction volume, so transactions normally in the south are higher than the north. I think that's changing around. And I don't think you can look at the country as one single market anymore, right? I think the south, especially the southeast, but the south is increasingly a buyer's market. Being a buyer's market doesn't mean it's a great time to buy because you're going to make money. It means it's a great time to buy because you've got more choice and arguably better conditions in which to negotiate a better purchase and not overpay. So a buyer's market means you've got a better chance of not overpaying. For sellers everywhere, it's getting worse, right? It's getting worse, and all of these indicators are saying it's increasingly a buyer's market, because whilst buyer demand is increasing slightly compared to this time last year, the amount of property for sale has gone up much faster. Okay, so let's just have a look at that graph where they've got the. So that's the growth in buyer demand, right? So the buyer demand is the purple dots, and the sales agreed is the black bars. Okay, and they're all roughly, so the East and West Midlands are the sales agreed are very low. They're only just 1% up on last year, 2% up. The rest of the country is around about 8% up in terms of sales agreed on last year, which is great. East Midlands up at 14% up, so that's good. Where is the? But it's not translating to faster. There we are. There's the but. It's not translating into faster house prices. Northern regions seeing the strongest house price growth at 2 to 3%. And remember, the strongest house price growth at 2 to 3% is still well below inflation. So house price growth is still not keeping up with how fast our currency is deflating. There are far more. Okay, so this is the graph of people paying stamp duty. Okay, so before April this year, 20% of first-time buyers had to pay stamp duty. After April this year, 41%. So more than double the number of first-time buyers are now paying stamp duty. Okay. Imagine if that wasn't the case, how many more buyers there'd be. And with homeowners, again, it's almost doubled from 49% to 83%. Where's the graph of stock coming on? They haven't got it up. That's really strange. Okay, never mind. That's fact number 4 anyway. Fact number 4 is fact number 3. I think it's here. Sorry, guys. It's taken me a while to get back into the swing of things here. Stock of homes for sale. There we are. The stock of homes for sale is 12% up on this time last year. Buyer demand, 11% up this time last year. All right. So there we are. Right. Okay. On to the next fact. This is Will Forster MP, who pressed Matthew Pennycook, the Minister for Housing on the Government's committee, to ending the leasehold system once and for all by the end of this Parliament. So here we are. This is what happened. This is what was said. Tell me if you can hear me or not. If you can hear this or not. Let's just.
Minister, can you commit to ending the leasehold system and implementing the Law Commission's proposals in full during this Parliament?
Yes, we will finally bring the feudal leasehold system to an end in this Parliament. That's our commitment, set out very clearly in the written ministerial statement I issued last year.
Is both introduce the law and implement it by the end of this Parliament?
Yeah, we will end. What we mean by ending the leasehold system is set out very clearly in that written ministerial statement, very lengthy written ministerial statement, lots of detail in there for the committee to get their teeth into. It means both implementing those leasehold reforms that are already on the statute book, and we are progressively switching on the provisions of the Leasehold and Freehold Reform Act 2024, but also undertaking that wider reform to bring the system to an end, and not least by ensuring that we transition to common hold, that common hold is the default tenure going forward. And you will have noted the white paper we published on common hold, and work continues as part of our plans to introduce that draft leasehold and common hold reform bill later this year on issues like how we ensure that the conversion process is efficient and cost effective for leaseholders as possible.
Minister.
Right. What do you make of that, guys? What do you make of that? Do you believe him? My interpretation of that is so let's just get a useful bit up there. My interpretation is they are working hard. They are focused on it. They do want to do it. It is actually one of their biggest jobs, apart from the house building, is to end leasehold reform. If they do succeed in ending leasehold and reforming leasehold and converting it into common hold in this Parliament, it would be incredibly impressive, right? And it will have a massive impact on the housing market. It'll have a massive impact on the values of leasehold properties. But I'm sorry, I'm looking at a guy there who I believe he wants to do it. But I think he already knows that hell will freeze over before they'll actually achieve this. But for him to sit there in that committee and confirm, yes, we will get it done in this Parliament, is quite something. I mean, I think he's risking his career by saying that. Because I don't think it's very, very difficult to understand the true extent of legal problems. Even if everybody wants to do this, it's an absolute nightmare legally to go through. I remember someone that I know a long time ago in London. He's a leasehold specialist. We were just in a pub chatting over a beer, and he was a qualified surveyor, specialised in leaseholds and that kind of stuff. And I remember him using the phrase, "Trying to untangle the leasehold system, it's like trying to untangle a Gordian knot." In other words, it's impossible. Even if you wanted to, you can't do it. That's what he said a long time ago, this guy. Anyway, there we are. There's that fact. Let's hope that they do. Let's definitely hope that they do, because at the moment, leaseholders are being absolutely shafted. but I remain hopeful, but not confident that they're going to achieve that. And fact number 5. And this is from the NHBC, the National House Building Council. A rise in new home registrations in Q2, reports the NHBC. Okay, whoopee-doo, great news. That's great. Let's have a look at the actual numbers. UK new home registrations up 4% in Q2 2025 versus last year. Affordable registrations up 6% quarter on quarter. So that's compared to Q1. Okay, well, any improvement's good, but it's such a low amount that when you actually look at the numbers here, figures released today by the National House Building Council, the UK's largest provider of new home warranties and insurance, show 30,405 new homes were registered to be built. Hang on. In Q2 2025. So 30,000 in a quarter is 120,000 in a year. $120,000. So the Angela Rayner's target is 350,000 a year because of how low it's been in the first year. So this rise, it's a rise up to just over 1/3 of the target that it needs to be. Just over 1/3. Now, this doesn't matter because contrary to popular belief and opinion, there isn't a shortage of homes. There are places where there is a shortage of homes. There's a shortage of rental accommodation. That's why rental prices continue to go up so much. There isn't a shortage of homes for sale. And there isn't a shortage of homes that are not for sale as well, because there are still 1.5 or 1.3 million officially long-term vacant homes as well. And the whole rhetoric and narrative around the only solution to the housing crisis is to build more houses is what the house builders want you to think. Because they want the government to be pressured into more help to buy and that kind of stuff, which Rachel Reeves may very well bring in the next parliament. And it would be criminal if she did so. It would be absolutely criminal if the government was to use taxpayer funds to subsidize the construction of new houses that aren't needed just to prop up house builder profits. Anyway, and yes, as Gothmog says, fact number 6, that shirt is well smart. Thanks, guys. I thought it would be fun to wear rather than the same old boring stuff I normally wear. Right, let's take a few questions. Cookie Monster says, Angela Rayner is just a gobby cokehead. That's an interesting opinion. I didn't know that. Didn't know you thought that. Thanks for letting us know. Right, questions. Okay, this is a T. Chaucer says, survey has returned and it's raised a few points of concern. I've shared those points with the agent. I'm waiting a reply. Any tips for approaching renegotiating? Yes. This is a very, very common question, and it happens a lot. Okay, you're a buyer, you make your offer on a property, you have your offer accepted, everything's going great. You have the survey done. The survey comes back and it flags up some issues that maybe weren't known about before, but nevertheless, it flags up real issues. It's not as straightforward as automatically going to mean that you get a lower price for a long list of reasons. The short answer to this is that you, as the buyer, making a decision on whether or not to proceed, must decide whether or not you are still willing to pay that price for that house with that problem or not. And if you're not, you've got to basically recalculate your maximum comfortable price for that house in light of the survey. So what you don't do actually is what T. Chaucer does, which is just send the survey to the agent and go, hey, this has come back. What do you think? Right? You want to take control of the situation and simply say, right, we've had this survey. By all means, share it with the agent to back up your situation, but share it with your renegotiation. If indeed you choose to renegotiate. Now, there are times when people go, you know what, I'm happy with the house, I'm happy with the price, I don't want to risk losing this by renegotiating, because some sellers will get so upset about renegotiation, they'll just go, right, I'm not selling it to you. And there are some buyers who'll go, the problem in that survey is a $5,000 or a $10,000 problem. It's a $600,000 house. I'm just going to suck it up. Okay. And if your maximum comfortable price doesn't change after the survey, then that is the correct approach, because that's how you secure the home that you want. However, if the survey problem comes back and goes, there is a £50,000 roof repair needed, and you go, well, I can't afford that. I can't afford to pay what I've offered to pay and pay the £50,000 for the roof. I could perhaps, and I'm just making this up, I'm not suggesting that's what you do. You might say, because I don't want to lose the sale, I'm going to renegotiate by 25 grand, which effectively says that me and the seller are splitting the cost of the roof. So yeah, if that's your new maximum comfortable price, you send your email back with the survey saying, in light of the survey results, my new maximum comfortable price for the property is this price. So in other words, in short, all you do is you reconsider your maximum comfortable price in light of the survey results, and you resubmit your offer with that maximum comfortable price if it is different. Okay, that's the answer to that question. Liam Jennings says, a detached bungalow went on over a year ago at 550k. It's now off to auction at 260k asking. Yeah, so what happens with some properties, because detached bungalows are very, very popular and they sell quite well. It's probably why it's so overvalued to begin with. But I'm guessing that the seller and the agent overlooked some major structural issues, maybe subsidence, that kind of stuff, which means that it can't be mortgaged, which means that no one's going to be able to buy it. So that happens quite a lot. Simon W says, agreed a sale of my house yesterday after 2 weeks online. Well done. Congratulations, Simon. I hope, seeing as you're following this channel, that means you've followed my advice in terms of selling. If you got an accepted offer after 2 weeks, that looks like you did a very good job. And now you've got to try to negotiate on your next purchase who are being sticklers for too high a price. Yeah, all you can do, the thing is, now that you have an offer on your property, you can now make your offer in view of the fact that your house is under offer. You have a buyer, provided that's a good buyer, provided your buyer's been qualified, they've got the mortgage in principle, that kind of stuff. Okay. Same rule applies. Make your maximum comfortable price. Don't try and chip it to save a few grand. You might risk losing it to someone else. Make your maximum comfortable price and say, I can't go higher than that. It's a yes or a no, and leave it with them. Dan making a comment on the making an observation about the corporate agents versus self-employed agents. It's simple. When you work for yourself, you need results to pay for your food. When you're a corporate, it's not your problem. Absolutely right. Baldrick's Turnip asks, regional independence with a mortgage broker included versus one without, which one is best? It doesn't matter which agent you use if you're selling, but if you're buying, just make sure that you don't use the in-house broker of the agent you're buying from, because there is a direct conflict of interest within that office, because the mortgage broker is representing you, the agent is representing the seller. They're hanging out at lunchtime, having a fag out the back, having a beer after work, sharing information about you. That is why you never use an in-house mortgage broker of an agent that you are buying a house from. Okay. Yeah, I want to put. I don't think I can't remember if I did a video of this or not, but I want to just get something up on screen for you. There we are. So I did a post on LinkedIn about this Foxtons versus It's had quite a lot of engagement on. It's had 18,000 views on LinkedIn. Have a look at this. Can you see that? Foxtons in Fulham. 76% failure to sell. They only sell 24% of what they list. Dexter's in Fulham, similar figure. For comparison, the best agents in Fulham are Winkworth and Aspire. Winkworth only failing on 22%, so selling 78% of everything they list, and Aspire selling 72% of everything they list, like almost the inverse. And the public is totally unaware of this, right? Foxtons are just shocking in terms of their actual success rates. I'm not quite sure why I wanted to show you that, but someone's comment made me want to show you that. There we are. Yes, Cookie Monster saying, Foxtons list everything for double and make you think you got a deal, then you end up in serious negative equity. If you're a buyer, yeah, that's true. But I would not want to buy or sell through Foxtons. Right. Again, there might be individual Foxtons branch managers who don't deserve that and who have better results. And to those guys, I apologize. But as a company overall, unless you have a compelling reason to use the local branch because of the person running it, I would just avoid Foxtons and Dexters like the plague, because look at their results. The results just speak for themselves. That's just pants, isn't it? I mean, that's really, really crap. That's just their Fulham office. But there we are. Looking for the next question. Okay, lots of you talking about the leasehold reform versus common hold. That's interesting. Timo293 says new build houses also may as well be called leasehold. The roads are unadopted, the sewers, etc., and the service charge may start low but only goes up. Fake freeholds. Interesting. Yes, Baldrick Turnip says, did you see they were saying about the amount of housing to be built on old railway land? I'm going to find Alex Groundwater's comment on that because it was really, he says it better than I do. So Stiggy, as ever, on the money. One moment. This is really important about Keir Starmer saying, oh, we're going to build 40,000 homes on railways. Here we are. Okay. This has been tried before, he says. There are numerous issues with brownfield railway sites, i.e. ground contamination from asbestos, lack of water and sufficient sewers for resi use. These 40,000 homes are planned to be built over 10 years and require £350 million of private investment. So that's 4,000 a year. That's like nothing. That's not even a movement on the needle of what's needed. And they're not yet funded. And he goes on to say, where is he? Oh, yeah, it's as yet unsecured funding from the government's newly formed company Platform 4. If it works at all, 50-50, to be shouting about 40,000 homes in a decade is odd. When at previous average annual levels, we'd have built 1.9 million homes in that time period anyway. So 40,000 is 2%, not exactly mind-blowing. Exactly correct. Thank you, Stiggy, for your insights as ever. The Papini sisters, hi there, say, are shared ownership properties a bad idea? Only unless it's your least bad option. So generally speaking, yes, they are complicated, lots of hidden issues with them. I've had people who are trying to sell shared ownership properties and they're having a nightmare. They can't sell them, basically. There might be circumstances where a shared ownership is still the best option for you. For example, you won't have a landlord giving you a Section 21 notice and making you move out. So if shared ownership is your only way in to get away from bad landlords, then and you're planning to stay there for a long time, and you think your finances are going to allow you to staircase up your ownership and eventually own outright, then maybe. But generally speaking, unless it's your only option, I think it should be avoided. And even if it is your only option, I think you need to be very, very cautious. Baldrick's Turnip is smashing in lots of great questions today. Thank you. Charlie, if you're selling, is it worth having a survey done yourself? I think so, yes. And the agents I'm working with are doing it now. Every instruction, it's called a pre-sale survey. And the purpose of this is for everyone concerned to know in advance if there are any serious issues with the property. It doesn't necessarily replace a buyer's survey, but what it does do is it saves everyone a huge amount of wasted time and money. So if you're a seller, it's a few £100 to get a pre-sale survey done, and you're just making sure that there are no deal-breakingly big survey issues. And if you come to the market with a pre-sale survey that buyers can see, you're only going to improve your chances of getting competing buyers. So I think it is a very good idea. Yes. Who Wants to Know says, what are your thoughts on buying out of the area that you live? Sell up and rent in the area you like? What if you have multiple areas, or stay where you are and travel for viewings? It depends on your personal circumstances. If you're moving to a completely new area you don't know, I think that renting in that area, maybe going to do a 1 month or 2 month Airbnb rental type thing, a short let, or then maybe a 6 month longer let if it suits your circumstances. But renting in an area you're planning to spend the rest of your life is a very, very wise idea if you can. Staying where you are and traveling for viewings, you may not have a choice to do that, but if you do have the choice, staying where you are and traveling for viewings is a pain. It's just a time-consuming pain. You want to go and be local so you can turn up to viewings more easily and more quickly. Carlos says, why is nobody in the media calling Zoopla, Savills, etc. out? Are they all in it together? Well, I mean, they're all in it together in the sense of they all want to please estate agents and try and scaremonger buyers into overpaying. But no, they don't collude on this stuff. Oh, Simon W said you followed my advice. Fantastic. Simon, I'd love to just, while you're there, if you're still there, just give me a couple of bullet points on what you did on following the advice. What did you price it at compared to what the agent did? Did you choose an agent based on my advice? What were the key things you feel like you got right that you picked up from the channel? Right. So your thoughts, Timo293 says, what are your thoughts on gazumping when buying? Relative is trying to upsize to a house. It's under offer already, and they keep increasing their ridiculous offer to get it. Will end up majorly overpaying. Okay. The current system and law for buying in England and Wales permits this to happen. In fact, agents are required by law, even if a house is under offer and a new offer comes in higher, the agents are required by law to give it to the seller. Now, I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing. I'm simply telling you how it is. And of course, it depends which side of the transaction you're on. As a seller, it can be risky to abandon a deal you've already agreed to, or to try and get the people you're already selling to increase their price. You can end up losing it out. Then the overbidding gazumper disappears as well, and you end up falling between two stools. But at the same time, as a seller, you don't want to undersell your property if the market for it is better. And gazumping often happens with a bad estate agent, where they finally got you one offer which you've reluctantly accepted, which means, by the way, if you're a seller who's only had one offer and you've reluctantly accepted it, you almost certainly are selling it for less than had you got a good agent that created a real market for your house, marketed it at a lower price, got more competing bids, you'd have sold it for more, right? If you've got one offer and you've accepted it reluctantly, you've almost certainly sold for less than you could have if you'd followed my advice on how to sell. So this situation can arise when actually, by coincidence, someone's reluctantly accepted an offer on a house, they're selling it, and then the buyer who really wants it comes on and goes, no, that's worth more. I'm prepared to pay more than that. And they genuinely are, and they want to. And then it can happen. But, you know, it's one of those situations. It's difficult, it's awkward, but each one, each situation needs to be taken on its own merits. There we are. That's all I'm going to say on that matter. You can go on about it for a long time. James H says, I'm buying my first house. 20 years of relentless saving to be able to do so. The stamp duty is going to be 17 grand. That is just pure punishment. Yeah. David Holloway says, hi, Charlie. I'm not sure if it's the shirt, but I'm not hearing. Guys, listen, I'm going to wrap it up there. I hope everyone who's signed up for the newsletter got their newsletter at 8:30 this morning. Feedback always welcome on the newsletter. If you just reply to the newsletter, I get that. I see the replies to the newsletter. So any feedback on the newsletter is always welcome. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, it's free, it's weekly, it's 5 Fact Friday. Sometimes I don't always get to do a video, but the newsletter will always happen. And it makes sure also if you've missed out on stuff during the week, you can catch up on that too. So if you haven't signed up, mhwc.co.uk/newsletter, that's down there. And other than that, if you just remember, if you are buying, make sure you've got all your ducks in a row. Your conveyancer, your mortgage offer, your proof of funds, your purchase pack, your search pack ready to buy, but don't overpay. Make your first and final offer using my offer email template. Just search Charlie offer email template, you'll find it. That explains in detail exactly how to offer in email in a way that you have a best chance of getting your offer accepted. And if you're selling, please don't overprice it. Choose your agent like your future depends on it. Choose your conveyancer first. If you have a conveyancer appointed before you choose your agent, the agents will fall over themselves to get you. You almost certainly get a lower fee. So in other words, by having a conveyancer up front as a seller, having them engaged and having your paperwork prepared is likely to reduce your agent's fee by more than the cost of the conveyancer. Think about it. It's a no-brainer. Otherwise, guys, yeah, if you're a buyer and you're new here, that URL there, mhwc.co.uk/all-my-ducks, all my ducks with hyphens. And I can put you in touch with the mortgage brokers and the conveyancers I work with and the search pack provider I work with in one place. And it helps me out if you do that. Helps me keep going with these videos. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. And someone mentioned that Halifax, Nationwide has put their house price index. Do you want me to do a live reaction to that? Annual house price growth softens in June. So someone in the comments has said that actually house prices have gone up. No, they haven't. They've gone down. Look. How are you not reading it? Have you seen someone watching in the live chat earlier on said Nationwide's put its house prices out and they're recovering or something? He says, no, they're not. Look. May 273,000, June 271,000. That's a 1% drop, or not quite 1%, but 0.8% drop month on month. Oh yeah, there we are. 0.8% drop month on month. And the annual change has fallen from 3.5% growth in the year to May down to just 2.1% growth in the year to June. So there we are. Don't believe the guff. And otherwise, guys, I'm going. Have a great weekend. Lots of love. See you all soon. Bye-bye.